Welcome back to Hollow Street. Tonight's story is one that will stick with you, a tale that peels back the layers of time to reveal something truly unsettling. It's called The Wallpaper. Liam and Chloe had just bought their dream home, a charming Victorian fixer-upper on the edge of town. It needed a lot of work, but they were young, in love, and full of energy. Their first project was the master bedroom. It was covered in layers of hideous floral wallpaper, a floral tapestry of fading decades. They spent a whole Saturday armed with steamers, scrapers, and a sense of optimism. Ready to say goodbye to Grandma's garden? Liam joked, aiming the steamer at a particularly garish yellow rose pattern. Chloe laughed. I was born ready. Let's do this. The first layer came off easily, revealing a psychedelic swirl of orange and brown from the 70s. Beneath that, a prim, geometric pattern from the 50s. They worked their way back through time, layer by layer, a papery archaeology of the home's past lives. It was satisfying work, a tangible act of making the house their own. As evening approached, they finally reached the last, most stubborn layer. It was a thick, textured paper, brittle with age. It clung to the plaster wall with a surprising tenacity. This one's a fighter, Liam grunted, putting his shoulder into the scraper. A large section finally gave way, tearing off with a dry, ripping sound. It took a chunk of the old plaster with it, revealing the bare gray wall beneath. But there was something else, scratched into the surface. Chloe leaned closer, wiping away the dust. What's that? It looks like writing. Liam ran his fingers over the faint grooves. They were letters crudely carved into the plaster. He read them aloud. It's too late for us. Run. A shiver ran down Chloe's spine. That's creepy. Who would write that? Liam shrugged it off, trying to sound braver than he felt. Probably some kid messing around. Come on, let's keep going. They moved to the next section of the wall. With a mix of excitement and dread, they steamed and scraped, peeling back the ancient paper, and there it was again. More writing. This time the message was longer. She won't let us leave. She's in the walls, Chloe whispered, her voice barely audible. Her eyes darted around the room, as if expecting to see someone watching from the shadows. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy, cold. Okay, this is getting weird, Liam admitted. He looked at the messages. They were clearly old, the plaster around them yellowed with age. It's just old graffiti, Chloe, pranks from people who lived here decades ago. But as they continued to strip the walls, the messages became more frantic, more desperate. Don't listen to the whispers. She hides in the patterns. Get out. Each new message felt like a punch to the gut. The joyful project had turned into a chilling excavation of a forgotten horror. They were no longer just renovating a room. They were uncovering a desperate warning. Then they found the first date. Next to the message. The scratching never stops, were a set of numbers, carved with the same frantic energy. Liam squinted at it. April 12th. He trailed off, a look of confusion on his face. That's weird. There's no year. They continued working, almost in a trance, compelled to uncover the rest. Another date appeared next to She's Coming. This one read May 3rd. Then another, May 21st, next to the chilling phrase. I can see her face in the flowers now. Chloe's hands were shaking as she pointed to the last message they uncovered, hidden behind the headboard area. It was a single, terrifying sentence. Tonight, she takes me. And next to it, a date. June 7th. They stood in silence, the room filled with the ghostly warnings from the past. The project was forgotten. All they could think about were the people who wrote these messages, trapped in this room, terrified. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the old house, every rustle of leaves outside the window, sent a jolt of fear through them. Chloe kept staring at the bare, scarred walls, imagining the hands that carved those warnings. The next morning, driven by a morbid curiosity, Liam decided to do some research. He spent hours at the local library, digging through old town records and newspaper archives, searching for any information about their new house. What he found made his blood run cold. He rushed home, his face pale. Chloe, he said, his voice trembling. I found something about the house. The previous owners. He spread the old photocopied documents on the kitchen table. There were 3 recorded tragedies associated with the house. In 1958, a woman named Eleanor Vance was reported missing. She was last seen in the master bedroom. Her husband swore she had just vanished. In 1974, a young man, a tenant, suffered a complete psychotic break. He was found in the same bedroom, clawing at the walls, screaming about a woman who lived inside them. And in 1991, a teenage girl took her own life in that room. Her diary was filled with terrified entries about a whispering woman and faces she saw in the wallpaper. Chloe stared at the papers, her heart pounding. "Liam, this is insane. It gets worse," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. He pulled out another piece of paper, a calendar page for the current year. "Look at the dates of the incidents. Eleanor Vance disappeared on June 7th. The young man had his breakdown on May 21st. The girl, her death was recorded on May 3rd. Chloe's eyes widened in horror as she connected the dots. The dates from the archives, the dates of the real tragedies, were different from the ones on the wall. They seemed random, unconnected. But then Liam pointed to a fresh calendar page. Not for the current year, but for the next one. He pointed to the dates they had found carved into the plaster. April 12th, May 3rd, May 21st, June 7th. They were all there, on next year's calendar. The warnings weren't from the past. They were from the future. They were predictions. A cold dread washed over them. They weren't uncovering history. They were reading a prophecy. A prophecy of events yet to happen, in this very house, in that very room. That night, the house seemed to come alive. They heard faint scratching sounds, seemingly coming from inside the walls. At first, they dismissed it as rats or the house settling. But the sound grew more distinct, more rhythmic. It sounded like a fingernail, slowly, deliberately, scraping against plaster. Then came the whispers. Faint, ethereal, seeming to ride on the drafts that snaked through the old house. A woman's voice, soft and sibilant, impossible to understand, yet filled with a chilling malevolence. Liam and Chloe huddled together in the living room, too terrified to go back upstairs. The warnings on the wall echoed in their minds. Don't listen to the whispers. The scratching never stops. A few days later, a new horror emerged. Chloe was in the kitchen when she glanced up at the small section of old wallpaper they had missed, high up in a corner of the master bedroom. For a split second, in the faint light of dusk, she saw it. A face, pale and gaunt, with dark, hollow eyes staring out from the floral pattern. It was there and then it was gone, dissolving back into the tangle of leaves and petals. She screamed. Liam came running. She tried to explain what she saw, but the words caught in her throat. He looked up at the wallpaper, but saw nothing but faded flowers. "Chloe, it's just the stress getting to us." The power of suggestion. But she knew what she had seen. I can see her face in the flowers now. The message wasn't a metaphor. The house was no longer their dream. It was a prison, holding them captive with fear. They stopped the renovations. The bedroom remained a scarred, half-stripped testament to their terror. They slept on the sofa downstairs, but there was no real rest. The scratching and whispers were their constant companions. They were living on a timeline they couldn't escape. Every glance at a calendar was a countdown. They were approaching the first date from the wall, April 12th of the next year. The day arrived with a heavy sense of doom. They locked themselves in the house, jumping at every sound. Nothing happened. The day passed uneventfully. As midnight struck, they let out a collective sigh of relief. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe it was all a sick, elaborate coincidence. The next morning, Liam went to get the mail. He returned holding a local newspaper, his face ashen. "Chloe," he whispered, holding it out. The headline read, "Local man missing, last seen near Old Victorian." The man's name was Arthur Finch. He had vanished without a trace yesterday. April 12th. They stared at each other in silent, cold horror. It was happening. The prophecy was real. It wasn't about them. It was about the house. The house was the predator, and it was starting its cycle again. The dates weren't warnings for one person, but a schedule. A feeding schedule. May 3rd came. A young woman, a tourist taking photos of old architecture, disappeared near their property. May 21st. A utility worker sent to check a faulty line never reported back to his office. Each disappearance was a nail in the coffin of their sanity. They were living in a tomb, witnessing a slow, methodical evil they were powerless to stop. Now only one date remained, June 7th. Tonight, she takes me. Who was me? Was it one of them? Or was it the house's final victim for this cycle? The days leading up to June 7th were an agony of suspense. They boarded up the windows of the master bedroom. They stuffed the cracks under the door. They tried to sell the house, but the story of the strange disappearances in the area had spread. No one was interested. They were trapped. On the evening of June 7th, a storm rolled in, matching the tempest in their souls. Rain lashed against the windows, and thunder rattled the old frame of the house. The scratching from the walls was louder than ever, frantic, hungry. The whispers were no longer faint, but clear, calling their names. Liam ... Chloe ... Suddenly, all the lights in the house flickered and died, plunging them into absolute darkness. A deafening crack of thunder shook the house, and in the blinding flash of lightning that followed, they both saw her. Standing in the doorway to the hall, where there was no door. A tall, spectral woman, her form made of shadow and moonlight, her face the same gaunt, hollow-eyed visage from the wallpaper. She didn't move, she just stared. And in the oppressive silence that followed the thunder, a new sound began. A slow, deliberate scraping, not from the walls this time, but from the master bedroom upstairs. It was the sound of something sharp carving into plaster. Liam grabbed Chloe's hand. "Run," he breathed, the word a desperate echo of the first warning they had found. They scrambled for the back door, fumbling with the lock in the darkness. The whispering was all around them now, a chorus of despair. They burst out into the stormy night, not looking back. They ran, fueled by pure terror, leaving behind their dream home, which had become their waking nightmare. They never returned. The house on the edge of town still stands, silent and waiting. Sometimes, new families, drawn by its Victorian charm, will move in. They'll talk of renovation, of peeling back the layers of the past to build a new future. They might even decide to start with the master bedroom, with its ugly, floral wallpaper. And as they scrape and peel, they might find a message, freshly carved into the plaster. A message that reads, "It's too late for us, run." And next to it, a date. A date from the year to come. Thanks for watching this episode of Hollow Street. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to peel back that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next descent into darkness. Until next time, be careful what lies beneath the surface.